Xbox Game Pass has been absolutely stacked so far this 2025, and honestly, my backlog is absolutely overflowing. I do know the real challenge isn't just having enough games, it's actually figuring out which ones are some must-plays. That's why today I've put together a list of the 20 best games you should be playing right now on Xbox Game Pass as of this September. Remember, I do make a new list like this every single month, so if you want to keep discovering some more hidden gems and big hits on Xbox Game Pass, then don't forget to subscribe down below. With that out of the way, my name is Fletcher, and this is Xbox Nation, and let's jump straight into these games. First up, we have The Alters, and it looks to hit you with a concept that's both sci-fi and deeply personal. In this one, you basically clone versions of yourself, each of them based on a different life choice, and then try to survive together after you crash land on a very strange planet. Of course, there is a twist to this mechanic. These clones do have their own opinions, regrets, and also conflicts. You're not just managing resources like some other survival games, instead you'll have to also manage the reflections of what you might have become. I do love when a game really makes me think outside of those mechanics, and this one definitely does, and it totally breaks that fourth wall. This is a must-play game, and you'll definitely see why it has such incredible reviews across the board. One of my favourite FPS games of the past decade has to be Titanfall 2, and I know many within the gaming community will definitely agree with me. Respawn created such a gem that got overshadowed all those years ago, but it really nailed all aspects of this game, from a gripping campaign, memorable characters, incredible gunplay, and a stupidly addictive multiplayer. I still enjoy diving into the metal clutches of BT and then taking on those bosses within the campaign. I originally got an Xbox One solely for Titanfall 1, and Titanfall 2 just improved on it in every single aspect. If you like fast-paced shooters with some massive mechs that you can call in at any time, then this is a game that you need to try out as soon as possible. Sometimes you just need a break from the chaos of shooters and RPGs, and House Flipper delivers that in the most satisfying way. There is something so strangely addictive though about taking a rundown property, smashing walls, repainting, and turning it into a dream home. It's an amalgamation of relaxation, creativity, and also chaos. I do have to say though, if you get really carried away with the sledgehammer, then it really does descend into some great and also funny madness. Whether you want a more cozy little space or a ridiculous mega mansion, the freedom is all yours in this game. If you've ever been hooked on renovation shows or just love the satisfaction of games like Powerwash Simulator, then House Flipper is absolutely worth your time on Xbox Game Pass. Wolfenstein is a series that really knows exactly what it wants to be, that being loud, brutal, and unapologetically over the top. I'm still kind of shocked that we still haven't got a new mainline entry, as I feel like it would do incredibly well in 2025. Of course though, these games do have you taking on Nazis with ridiculously powerful weapons, and it never gets old. You will be playing as the infamous BJ Blazkowicz, and while everyone knows he's a one-man army, some emotional moments still do shine through all of that action. The gunplay is incredibly tight, the enemies are relentless, and the set pieces, well, they're bloody unforgettable. Whether you're dual-wielding shotguns or sneaking through enemy lines, this game is such endless fun. Cataclismo might not be the biggest name on this list, as it only just landed onto Xbox Game Pass for all of you PC owners, but it still deserves some attention for how unique it really does feel. It's a game that really blends tower defense, real-time strategy, and also a medieval setting in a way that feels both tense and incredibly creative. You're not just building fortresses for the sake of it like others in this sort of genre, instead you're doing it to survive these incredible waves of terrifying enemies. Every wall that you place, every archer tower that you build, and every resource you manage makes the difference between holding strong or being completely overrun. It has a real mix of creative construction and just pure survival pressure, and I think that's why it's garnered such a big audience so far. I've already put it down in my own download list, so I do recommend you do this as well for this September. If you're a big fan of JRPGs, then Metaphor Refantazio is going to pull you in almost immediately. From the same team behind Persona, this game has all of that style, flair, and deep storytelling that you kind of expect, but now within an entirely new fantasy world. The characters are of course incredibly memorable, and the art direction is absolutely stunning. The combat also looks to blend turn-based strategy with fast, stylish execution, and it really does stand out from the team behind Persona. What really does make it shine though is just how it layers that that emotional storytelling on top of those epic fantasy battles, and it really creates a world where you want to get lost in time and time again. It's not just about the fights every single time, it really is about the bonds that you form and the mysteries that you will uncover along the entire playthrough. If you want a JRPG that oozes so much personality and depth from Atlas, then Metaphor Refantazio is a standout on Xbox Game Pass. I Am Your Beast has just joined the Xbox Game Pass library across console, cloud, and PC, and that was now about a week ago. This finally arrived though after a very well received time over on PC for almost a year now, and if you're unfamiliar with this one, it's basically a first-person dynamic shooter, so think super hot, but with none of that sort of start and stop malarkey. You take on the role of a secret agent from Alphonse Harding, who's basically forced to go back into combat. The game is made, of course, in that gorgeous comic style and offers more than 20 levels with tons of bonus tasks and even the possibility of improving your own results with repeated passages. I have been showing you my own gameplay this entire time as I've fallen in love with this indie gem, and I highly recommend it wholeheartedly. Herdling is one of those games that really hooks you with its simplicity, but then keeps surprising you the deeper that you go. At its core is a game about guiding and managing these strange little creatures known as calicorns, and your job is to essentially lead them through ever-evolving challenges to the end game. I absolutely adored this game, and you can check out my entire review here on the channel. For me, I do feel it's very similar to games like Limbo and Inside, so expect no dialogue and expect the environment, the puzzles, and the sound design to create that atmosphere and how you feel by the end of the game. The mechanics are pretty solid as well, and it's not a long game by any means. I do highly recommend that you try it out as soon as you can, as I feel it's going to be a tiny hidden gem on the Xbox Game Pass library for 2025. Silksong was quite easily one of the most anticipated indie sequels of all time, and it's been a massive hit since it launched about a week ago now. Hollow Knight really set the bar for Metroidvanias with its tight combat, gorgeous hand-drawn art, and haunting atmosphere, and Silksong really did polish all of that, but then pushed it even further. This time though, you play as Hornet, which immediately changes up the feel of combat, especially as she's more faster, more agile, and has a few more new tools at her disposal. The world itself though is even more varied and alive, but this time includes over 500 enemies for you to kill, or probably get you killed. I know there is also some sort of discussion around the difficulty at the moment, but for me, this game does feel slightly harder than Hollow Knight, but then again, I'm kind of glad that the team stuck by that original vision. Next up is one of my absolute favourite horror experiences available on Xbox, and it's known as Little Nightmares 2. With the third installment already on the horizon, there's never been a better time to dive into this series, especially if you haven't already. What makes it stand out though is how it captures pure dread without relying on cheap jump scares. The 2.5D aesthetic really gives it a storybook-like quality, but definitely don't let that fool you, as the atmosphere is chilling from start to finish. The true stars of the show though are the residents of nowhere. They're incredibly grotesque, oversized, and also disturbingly human in the worst ways. Every encounter with them is just so unforgettable and genuinely spine-tingling. I've said it before, and I'm not usually big on horror titles, but Little Nightmares 2 completely won me over, and it's a must-play on Xbox Game Pass. Few games out there will ever capture the fantasy of commanding armies like Shadow of War. Building on the excellent Nemesis system from the first game, every orc that you face in this one in Middle-earth feels like a living rival. The system really makes them remember battles, betrayals, and even your failures, so each are unique to every single playthrough. It makes Middle-earth feel alive in a way that most action games really can't match, and if you add to that a fantastically designed open world alongside some brutal combat, and you've got a power trip that's worthy of Tolkien's universe. I'm a massive lover of all things Lord of the Rings, and there's a reason why I will always 100% any of the Lord of the Rings that come out on the market. Whereas games like Gollum was a complete dumpster fire, Shadow of War is one of the best games for Lord of the Rings. I do still wish we got a new Lord of the Rings Conquest game though, and I'm still hoping for that in the year of 2025. Manor Lords really is the ultimate medieval strategy sim, especially for anyone out there who really loves both city building and gritty battles. It really hits the nail on the head when it comes to building a village, as every stable and farm really does feel important, and your decision really does affect your little communities. The villagers here will also carry out some tasks, the seasons in this game will really affect your survival, and everything connects in a more realistic way. What really sets it apart from other RTS or even city builders are the battles. When rival lords come knocking at your door, you're suddenly thrown into large-scale combat that feels straight out of games like Total War. If you've ever wanted to juggle the peaceful life of running a village with the chaos of medieval warfare, then Manor Lords is one of the best strategy titles on Xbox Game Pass. I do have to mention that it's only available on PC at the moment, but there are rumours of it coming to console by the end of 2025. One of the greatest comeback stories in all of gaming has to be No Man's Sky, and what Sean Murray and Hello Games have really achieved is utterly insane. What started out as one of the worst video game launches ever has now evolved into one of the most ambitious space exploration games that's ever been made. The sheer scale here is mind-blowing, from millions of planets to explore, each with their own wildlife, environments, and also secrets. Some main highlights of the experience though do include building bases, upgrading your ships, farming resources, or just diving into co-op with your friends to explore together. We are still getting tons of updates to this day, even 10 years later. It's a staggering achievement of sticking to your vision, and I can't wait for Light No Fire when that comes sometime next year. As I mentioned earlier in this video, not every game has to be about action or adventure. Sometimes it really is about blasting muck off a garden chair. Powerwash Simulator takes something incredibly mundane and somehow makes it impossible to put down. There's this sort of weird zen-like feeling as you strip away years of grime and then watch objects slowly transform back to life. One job might have you restoring a classic car, and the next you're tackling a roller coaster or even entire landmarks. It's equal parts satisfying and pretty ridiculous, but what makes it even better is how well it works as a sort of switch off your mind game. You can throw on a podcast, grab your washer, and then lose hours without even realizing. It is proof that the most relaxing experiences can also be the most addictive on Xbox Game Pass. Sliding into the role of Robocop feels like stepping straight into an 80s action flick, and seeing it smash its way onto Xbox Game Pass a couple months back now really puts a massive smile on my face. The game nails that heavy, unstoppable presence of Murphy just like the films. You definitely aren't fast either, but then again you're a walking tank with an Auto 9 at your side. Every gunfight though is pretty brutal and deliberate, with enemies exploding under the sheer force of your firepower. Beyond the combat though, the world of Detroit is also brought to life with some pretty cool and gritty detail, packed with so many nods that fans of the films will instantly appreciate. The writing even carries that sharp satire that the franchise is so famous for, making it more than just a nostalgic shooter. Rogue City is both a love letter to classic Robocop and a solid modern FPS for all of us Xbox Game Pass subscribers. Wuchang Fallen Feathers was a game that I really struggled to get into at first, but a few hours into it and my mind completely shifted. This is an action RPG that's rooted in Chinese folklore, with an atmosphere that's dripping in so much mystery and dread. The combat here is pretty deliberate and punishing, demanding precision and your timing. Yes, as you'd probably expect, it is a Souls-like, but with its very unique flavour. The enemy designs in this one are pretty wild, and I think the devs have also nailed that combat. It does take some getting used to, and of course you do also have to balance the feathering effects, but it seemingly works pretty well and does stand out amongst the crowd. If you don't like Souls-likes, then yes, you probably won't like this one. However, if you're looking for a decent challenge or do like Souls-likes, then I highly recommend Wuchang right now. A new addition to the Xbox Game Pass library for this year was Crime Scene Cleaner, and in this one you're not the criminal or even the detective. Yes, that's right, instead you're the poor soul that shows up after the carnage to clean it all up. This one though is set in a grimy post-crime world, and this darkly comedic sim has you scrubbing blood off walls, hiding evidence, and disposing of, well, let's call them inconvenient objects. You can obviously see some similarities here to games like Powerwash Simulator. There is a real addictive gameplay loop hidden under this more gruesome experience. Each job also has you taking on different rules. Don't get caught, don't leave a trace, and definitely don't ask questions. Personally, I've actually been watching Dexter for the very first time, and now I've also been playing this game. Yes, it sounds pretty weird as a combination, but it's actually quite a fun time. Crypt Custodian has to be one of the most charming takes on the afterlife that you'll ever see within the gaming universe. You basically play as a mischievous little cat who gets punished in the afterlife by becoming a janitor. Don't let that small and pretty weird setup fool you though, as this is a full-on action adventure with very tight combat, clever puzzles, and a whimsical art style. The humour lands pretty well as well, and there's something just so fun about tackling enemies whilst also cleaning up your ghostly mess. It balances that sort of light-hearted charm but with some genuinely satisfying mechanics, making every dungeon feel incredibly rewarding. It's also a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, but then still keeps you hooked with its personality. If you love quirky indies with a lot of heart, then Crypt Custodian is one that you need to try. I'll be honest, Dungeons of Hinterberg is the kind of game that really did trick me and ultimately surprised me. At first glance, it looks like a postcard perfect alpine holiday. You're making friends in the town, chatting over coffee and just vibing. Then suddenly you're sword in hand, battling magical beasts and solving wild puzzles in cool and sprawling dungeons. That double life is exactly why this one is so fun. It's a social sim spliced with stylish action, and the way it flips between cozy downtime and high-stakes adventure is pure genius. Add in that gorgeous cel-shaded art style that you can see on screen now, and you've got something that's as easy to sink into as it's hard to put down. I have to say, you don't start one lonely outpost with a farm or even a town. You'll basically start with literally nothing but dirt and determination on a dead planet. Somehow, that's what makes it so brilliant. You're building a colony from scratch, growing alien crops, and then slowly turning a wasteland into something thriving. The twist though is that you get to decide whether you go full organic and eco-friendly, or instead lean into futuristic high-tech farming that changes the whole vibe of your settlement. It's sort of like Stardew Valley meets space colonization, and is addictive in the best way possible. If you've ever wanted to play Intergalactic Pioneer, then this one is definitely calling your name. So what Xbox Game Pass game have you been enjoying so far this September? You'll have to let me know in the comments below. Remember to smash that like button if you did enjoy this video or found a hidden gem that you've not heard of before. Do subscribe as well, as I do upload Xbox content every single day, especially as we close in on 100,000 subscribers. Thanks so much for your support, and if you do want to check out some more awesome Xbox content, check out the video on screen now. I recently had a chance to have a look at Powerwash Simulator 2 before it arrives this fall, and I tell you what, there's a lot of things that you need to get excited for.